We remember the Roman Empire for its towering aqueducts, smooth roads, and elegant cities. But that's only half the story. Behind the marble and glory was an empire built for conquest, forged in war, fear, and iron discipline. And while Rome gave the world calendars and concrete, it also engineered some of the most terrifying military machines the ancient world had ever seen. Not just to win battles, but to crush resistance, to send a message, to make sure no one forgot who ruled the world. Welcome to Long History Short. This is Rome's most terrifying inventions, the siege engines, weapons, and war tech that turned an empire into a military machine. Picture this. You're behind city walls, thinking you're safe. Then, thunk, an iron bolt, as long as a spear, slams through the shield of the man next to you and pins him to the wall. That's the Ballista, Rome's precision siege engine, like a massive crossbow, powered by twisted sinew and raw tension. These weren't just battlefield curiosities. They were sniper rifles of the ancient world. Able to fire with such force and accuracy, Roman generals could pick off targets from hundreds of meters away, and they did. Some versions, called Scorpios, were small enough to be mounted on carts or towers, giving Roman legions mobile artillery. Julius Caesar brought them across the English Channel. The Britons were so shaken, they fled without a fight. But the real genius? Roman engineers could calibrate each machine to the environment, adjusting for humidity, wind, and even the density of enemy walls. The message was clear. If you could be seen, you could be hit. And when that first bolt flew, you knew Rome wasn't just coming. Rome was already here. If the Ballista was Rome's sniper, the Onager was its sledgehammer. Named after a wild donkey for its violent kick, this siege engine didn't just knock, it obliterated. The Onager worked by winding a massive torsion rope tight, then releasing a single arm that flung boulders the size of barrels. When it fired, it kicked back so hard, ancient engineers warned, never mount it on stone walls, unless you want to bring your own fortress down. And it wasn't just the impact that terrified enemies, it was the sound. That bone-rattling thwack signaled destruction was coming. And there was nothing you could do but pray your tower wasn't next. During sieges, onagers hurled projectiles for hours, sometimes days, smashing walls, gates, and morale alike. 10 of these beasts traveled with every legion. They weren't subtle, they weren't pretty, but when Rome wanted in, the Onager made it happen. Picture this, a massive wooden tower, taller than the city walls, groaning as it rolls forward on iron-reinforced wheels. Inside, dozens of Roman soldiers, archers, engineers, infantry, stacked floor by floor, shielded behind fireproof hides soaked in vinegar and mud. This was the siege tower, Rome's answer to the impossible wall. It wasn't built in a day. Sometimes it wasn't even built in one place. The pieces were transported across land or sea and assembled on site, rising like a second city beside the one they planned to conquer. And when it was ready, it rolled forward, slow and certain, like a nightmare on wheels. At the top, archers unleashed volleys downward. Below, engineers extended a battering ram, pounding at the gate. And then came the final move. A ramp would drop from the top level onto the enemy walls. Roman soldiers charged across, turning the stronghold's defenses into their new front line. During the siege of Masada in Judea, Roman engineers built a ramp so vast it still stands today. A literal mountain of war built to prove Rome doesn't wait for surrender. It builds. the road in. It's one of the oldest tools in war. A log, swung hard enough to break through anything. But Rome didn't do basic. They turned the battering ram into a siege machine with rhythm, protection, and precision. Picture a massive beam, capped in iron, suspended by chains inside a rolling shed. That shed had a name, testudo, Latin for tortoise. Covered in fire-resistant hides and reinforced with timber, it shielded the dozen or more soldiers inside, who swung the ram like a pendulum. Each strike wasn't chaos, it was coordinated. The beam would crash into the gates again and again, until stone splintered and wood shattered. And here's the brutal detail. Roman law considered the first hit of the ram the moment when mercy ended. From that point forward, it was total war. Cities knew, if the ram touched your gate, the real siege had begun. And if you didn't surrender before that strike, you were going to remember what Roman justice felt like. The Roman Empire wasn't just built with stone and strategy. It was built with steel, short, brutal, efficient steel. Meet the Gladius Hispanensis, a weapon so effective that it didn't just kill enemies. It redefined what it meant to fight. Roughly 2 feet long, double-edged, and built for thrusting, not slashing. It turned Roman soldiers into human pistons of destruction. And it wasn't even originally Roman. Rome borrowed the design from Iberian tribes, then improved it, standardizing its shape, balance, and deadliness. On the battlefield, legions moved like walls of iron, shields locked, steps in sync, each soldier stabbing forward in tight rhythm. The Gladius didn't just pierce, it punched through armor, ribs, lungs. While other armies swung wildly with long swords, Romans aimed for efficiency, short movement, maximum damage, no wasted effort. And when it was done right, a Roman line could wipe out enemies before the fight even felt real. That's why every legionnaire carried a gladius. Not just a weapon, but a symbol of Roman discipline, control, and dominance. The Pilum wasn't just a spear. It was a psychological and tactical weapon designed to ruin your day and your shield. About 7 feet long, with a slender iron shank, the Pilum was thrown just before hand-to-hand combat. But unlike a typical javelin, the Pilum had a cruel trick. It was meant to bend on impact. Once it pierced an enemy's shield, it would warp, making the shield unusable. The enemy had two options: ditch the shield or fight with a useless one. Either way, the Roman soldier now had the upper hand. At the Battle of Alesia, Caesar's legions used Pila to devastating effect against Vercingetorix's Gauls. As waves of warriors surged forward, their shields were rendered useless in seconds, clearing the path for the deadly Gladius. Roman soldiers often carried two Pila. The first disrupted the enemy formation, the second ensured it stayed broken. Simple, brutal, and brilliantly designed, the Pilum wasn't just thrown. It shattered the enemy's defenses before the real fight even began. On land, Rome was unstoppable, but at sea, they were outmatched until they turned the tide with one brutal invention. Meet the Corvus, a spiked boarding bridge that didn't just change naval combat, it hijacked it. During the First Punic War, Rome faced Carthage's superior navy. The Romans weren't sailors, they were infantrymen. So they did what Romans do best. They changed the rules. The Corvus was a 36-foot gangplank with a vicious iron spike on its end. When Roman ships pulled alongside the enemy, they dropped the Corvus. Slam! It bit into the deck and locked the ships together. Suddenly, this wasn't a sea battle. It was hand-to-hand combat. On water, legionnaires charged across the bridge like it was just another battlefield. Shield up, sword out, and it worked. Rome captured dozens of Carthaginian ships. Naval superiority shifted. The Corvus wasn't elegant. It was brutal, awkward, and wildly effective. But most of all, it reminded the world, you don't beat Rome by outplaying them. You beat Rome by surviving them. You've seen how Rome fought, but how did they sleep in enemy territory without losing a step? The answer? They didn't just camp. They constructed fortresses every single night. Enter the Castrum, Rome's modular military camp. Pre-designed, grid-patterned, and shockingly efficient. When a legion stopped marching, soldiers didn't rest. They dug trenches, erected palisades, and laid out roads. Gates faced each direction. Command tents were always dead center. Barracks, storage, watchtowers, all arranged like clockwork. These weren't just tents in the dirt. They were instant cities, organized, defensible, and identical from Gaul to Judea. That standardization meant every soldier always knew where to go, where to stand, and what to defend, no matter where in the empire they were. And the effect? Morale, discipline, security. Rome didn't travel like an army. It moved a city, and wherever they slept, the empire came with them. Rome didn't just win battles with brute force. It won with psychological warfare, weapons you couldn't see until it was too late. Before a single sword was drawn, the battlefield was engineered. Imagine charging into battle, only to stumble into a concealed pit, land on a sharpened stake, or be hobbled by a caltrop, a twisted, four-pointed spike designed to always land with one point up, whether it was horses, camels, or infantry. Caltrops could halt entire advances. A few scattered on a path, a logistical nightmare. But Rome went further. They'd use camouflaged barricades to steer enemies into narrow kill zones, fill trenches with water or oil, create rows of sharpened branches hidden just below the soil. These traps didn't just injure. They broke momentum, crushed morale, gave Roman soldiers an edge before a single spear flew. When you control the terrain, you control the fight. And in Rome, every patch of dirt could be a weapon. One of Rome's most underrated war machines was the Roman soldier himself. What made Roman legions so deadly wasn't just their training, it was standardization. Every legionnaire marched with the same gear, a Gladius Hispaniensis for stabbing, a scutum, a large curved shield designed to interlock into a wall, a pila, a heavy javelin that bent on impact so enemies couldn't throw it back, and armor, usually larica segmentata, segmented iron plates protecting the chest, shoulders, and back. That meant a Roman line moved like a single organism, not hundreds of men, but one force, one rhythm, one purpose. Even the camp layouts, tactics, and formation drills were identical. No matter where a legion went, they were plug and play, on land, at sea, in the snow, in the desert. Before battle, the front lines launched volleys of pila to shatter enemy shields. Then came the advance, tight, controlled, terrifyingly disciplined. Gladius out, shields locked, a living wall of iron and will. Rome didn't just build an army, they mass-produced excellence until the enemy wasn't facing soldiers. They were facing a system designed to win. It burned on water, it stuck to flesh, and no one, not even Rome's fiercest enemies, knew how to put it out. This was Greek fire. Developed in the Eastern Roman Empire, what we call the Byzantine Empire, Greek fire was the ultimate naval weapon. Shot from pressurized siphons or hurled in clay pots, it ignited upon contact and clung to ships, sails, and sailors alike. During the siege of Constantinople, the Byzantines used Greek fire to repel a massive Arab fleet. As enemy ships advanced under cover of night, Byzantine fire ships unleashed jets of liquid flame. The sea itself seemed to burn. Terrified enemies leapt into the sea, only to find the fire followed them. Greek fire didn't go out with water. Buckets, sand, even vinegar were sometimes used, if you had time. Its exact formula? Still a mystery. The secret was so tightly guarded, it died with the empire. Today, historians suspect a mix of naphtha, pine resin, and sulfur, but no one can be sure. Greek fire wasn't just a weapon. It was terror on the tide, and it helped preserve the Roman world in the East for centuries. We remember Rome for its grandeur, its marble forums, aqueducts, and philosophies. But beneath all that, Rome was something else too. An empire, built to conquer. Their roads didn't just lead to cities, they led to battlefields. Their architects didn't just build temples, they built siege towers, rams, and war machines. Their engineers didn't just master water, they mastered the science of destruction. And all of it, the discipline, the innovation, the brutal efficiency, wasn't just for glory. It was for survival, for domination, for a message that said, resist, and this is what follows. Because in Rome, every invention had a purpose, and sometimes that purpose was war. Thanks for watching. For a clear, compelling history, subscribe to Long History Short, your shortcut to the whole story. Do you have a suggestion for an upcoming video? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you in the comments.